Hey, what's up, y'all? Where did you learn about God from? Did you learn it from a church or a mosque or, a synagogue? Did you learn it at a friend's house? You know, it seems to be a problem nowadays that you had to learn from a certain place. Well, it's always been like that, but it seems like nowadays it's very polarizing. Religion is spirituality in general. Anything that has to do with God, it seems like it's a very polarizing topic. And we're going to talk about it. There's a lot of different um, forms of spirituality, different religions, dozens of them. Little pockets here and there all over the place, or big pockets that take up, the religious population of like, whole countries, and then you've got your main religions and everything like that. So, like, I love it. I love the diversity of thought. And if you look at it from that perspective, if you look at it from a from a purely academic perspective, as far as what can I learn from this, instead of which one's right and which one's wrong, because there's going to be some overlapping themes in each religion, and I've read quite a few. I've studied some, well, all the majority of the large Abrahamic faiths of some Indian, Asian stuff, and Indian philosophies, Buddhism, Taoism, Hinduism, um, and a lot of the little accompanying facets of their thoughts and the way that they see life and the different philosophies that they have on, how to get to God, basically. Catholicism, Seventh Day Adventists, Episcopalians. You're like, there's way too many to go into, and it always was a problem for me because I always wondered, like, why are they mad at us? Why are we um why are we looked at as the bad guy just because our God and our prophets and our religious figures don't look like theirs, and vice versa? So we, throughout since the dawn of time, since we were civilized and found some way to compartmentalize our spirituality, there's always been an issue in who's right, who's wrong, what's true, what's false, what is. And as I think as we grow older, we tend to find our own information, because I'll be honest with you, Western religion is very dogmatic, and there's so many things that have been hidden from us over the years. So like the diversity of religion to me is what makes for a good community, honestly. And the reason I say that is because God is all encompassing. The universe literally contains everything known to us and unknown to us. So for that type of myopic thinking to say, oh, well, Catholics are the right ones, Muslims are right, they're the only, everything that's in this particular book that's it. No, I don't believe that. I don't believe that. Not one bit. I can't subscribe to that theory. Like, I'm a person that I need to see proof, first of all. And a lot of religion they don't provide that proof of concept. You want me to believe in a certain concept of thinking? Fine. I'll go along with it until I see bullshit, and then I'm gonna call it. It is what it is. I think a lot of the times we actually get caught up in the academic nature of what religion is, instead of tapping into the focus, which is, you know, attaining oneness, being free, letting your spirit fly, you know, heaven, whatever it is. However, like I said, there's so many different diverse ways of thinking about uniting your consciousness to the creator that it's impossible for just one of them to be right and everything else is wrong. You know what I mean? Like, it's never been proven in my eyes. It's never, nobody has ever proven to me that one religion or one way of thinking is better than the rest of them. Or I'll say the true thought to God. First of all, I feel like I don't really need a mediator. Some people do, and that's fine. I didn't get on here to diss religion. I actually want to talk about the diversity of what it means to be a spiritual person and the different ways that you can get there. You know, like, you've got religions that are centered around men. You've got patriarchal religions. You've got matriarchal religions. You've got combinations of those, you know, different ways to access the energy, different ways to interpret the scriptures that have been left behind for us to pick up. You know, there's so many different ways, and it's a beautiful thing, folks. I think it's a beautiful thing. You know, I would disagree with anybody that says one particular way of thinking is better than the rest of them. Because if you've taken the time and looked into things and taken the time to read it for yourself and study it and educate yourself on what this particular religion is trying to show you, you'll see that there are so many overlapping themes that it's impossible. It's impossible to just separate one from the rest of them. Now, there may be some things that resonate more in one than another, and that's only my understanding. That's purely the way I'm comprehending the information. So, you know, that same passage might read completely different for somebody else. So it's, like I said, it's all preferential, but the goal at the end of the day is to get in tune with your star player. Basically, it's all telling us the same thing. It's just saying it in different ways, because once we got separated, and that again is another story that has been told in dozens of different ways in dozens of different languages, and it comes across totally different. But the point remains the same. At some point, we got too arrogant for our own good and said, we might be smarter than you. To which the response was, no, you're not. I made you, and I can break you. I brought you into this world. I can take you out this motherfucker. And I made the world that you're living on. Dad, mom, they're crazy parents. You know, and some religions actually believe, like I said, the hybrid, you know, divine mother and father. And to sit back and think about it, 1 + 1 does equal 3. Thank you, Terrence Howard. So, you know, like I said, there's, you know, you've got religions that rely on a divine mother and a divine father. You've got your virgin births. You know, there are so many different. There's it's this little video ain't going to cover it all. That's definitely for sure. But this is just like, you know, get you thinking. Like, there really are so many things out there that it's almost impossible to get a grasp on all of it. So you have to just, if you want to do your due diligence, you know, do what you got to do. Like, until I got deeper into the Bible, I didn't even realize the Torah existed. The Bhagavad Gita, you know, there's so many. And yeah, my grandfather was, like I said, he was a pastor for 67 years. And he would always tell me, you know, the Bible might be your go-to, but don't make it your only. There's always more to life than what's in the Bible. And I was probably about 10 or 11 when he told me that. And that's always been in the back of my head ever since. You know, so I would go to church, and front pew kid, sitting there watching him go through it, do his thing, you know, getting everybody hyped up. And then, you know, we would go have lunch, and we would talk about the sermon of the day. And it always turned into something that would push me in a different direction. And, you know, I was always in the library. Shout out to the library. Bow. Keeping kids smart since, I don't know, Alexandria. So, no, but yeah, we all had that moment. We all have one moment that's either going to flip the switch or it's going to turn us off. And a lot of people right now are turned off from religion just because y'all make it look like it's bullshit. You know, it is. And when you can't, like I said, proof of concept does come into this. It factors into it a lot. If you can't show me what you're telling me is true, or at least get me to feel it, I don't have to see it with my own eyes, like sensory wise. But if you get me to feel that shit in my heart, I fuck with it. It is what it is, you know? So, you know, like that factored into a lot of my evolution as a kid, as a teenager. And I ain't gonna lie, I asked a lot of questions, and he would if he say, I don't know. He was humble enough to tell me he didn't know. And I think a lot of people have a problem with maybe a perceived lack of humility within, you know, I'll say America because that's where I live. But the American religious structures aren't working. It's not working, you know, and I've known that for years. The way that we practice religion over here it's not like anywhere else in the world that I've seen or read about or talked to people who have experiences from other parts of the world. You know, I don't, I feel really weird about religion, man. I do. I feel really, really weird now that I've been 35 years and counting. I've felt this way, you know, but I'm starting to creep my way back in, just from an academic perspective, because, you know, when you're a kid and you read all this stuff and you have people telling you this and that, and there's conflicting stories, and you try to do the research, but you're a kid. I mean, let's be honest here. There's only so much a kid's really going to care about. But I've always tried to elevate myself throughout the years and try to keep an anchor in my spirituality, no matter what it looked like. And I guess that's the big message, you know, religion versus spirituality. Where are you at? Are you a former front pew kid, you know, PK, who got tired of listening to your parents or your grandparents or whoever was dragging you into church, every Sunday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday, and you just said, fuck it, I'm done. I ain't fucking with y'all right now, man. This is bullshit. And then you go off on your own and you live your life and you come back and you kind of look at things a little from a different perspective because you have the lived experience. And then you might look at it a little differently. You're like, I'm going to do it on my own. I'm not going, and that's kind of where I'm at. I'm doing it on my own, and I have talks with people here and there, about their spirituality and what it means to them. So having that conversation and being able to see the diversity of thought and how it affects them, how they use it to create the life that they're living, it's not bad. People use it for bad shit. If you walk away with anything, I want you to walk away with that. It is a tool of oppression, but it can also be a tool that builds a stronger community. It's a sad look. It's a bad look for us right now. Like United States, we look like shit. No cap. Let's keep it a buck. Let's go. Let's keep it a bean, y'all. For real, for real. We have a president and we have members of Congress who are using Jesus in the Bible to push their wicked fucking agendas all over the world. And not only that, there are people on the other sides of the planet that are co-signing it. This is our time to look at it. Like, just sober up and look at it. Back up, back away from the whole thing. Look at it from the grand scheme. They're literally, these people are using the name of God. What I say in one, I said burner in one hand, Bible in the other. That's what we're doing, folks. That's what we're doing. And it's sad. It's sickening. It's pathetic. And I can't stand it. And for anybody co-signing it, fuck you. I say that with my whole chest. Fuck you. Everything. This is deeper than the Klan when you talk about perverting religion to suit your own agenda. It is what it is. If you know, I don't need to say nothing. I done said all I needed to say. But in all honesty, get your head out of your ass and start living your life right. Let's be willing to move. Be willing to look at yourself in the mirror and say, I might be part of the problem. I'm part of the problem. I've been part of the problem for 47 years. Once I hit 48, I kind of realized, like, yo, this something has to happen. I feel a certain way about things, and it's time for me to speak on it. And we all need to speak on it. If you care. If you don't care, that's fine. Get out of the way. But we're here to do something beautiful. Way better than what we're doing right now. And it's about time that we start doing it. And we need a community of people that are going to put themselves out in front and say, hey, look, come on, man, we got to stop it. We got to stop it. And right now I know, there's going to be some finger pointing because people will have to get called out. And that's the thing about religion and the diversity of thought that it comes with. There are so many different ways that you can. There's so many different ways that you can come. That you can come in. It's so many doors. Find something that you like. Find something that resonates with you. That hits you in your heart. Is something that you can anchor yourself to spiritually. Not, I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be on a religious level, but there are parts of the Torah that I resonate with. There's parts of Native American, spirituality that I fuck with. Totem theory, for one. Animal spirits. It's see, we get caught up in thinking this box is all we're allowed. And that's what the oppressive structure wants us to believe. That's all we have is this little box. Way bigger than that. Way bigger. Can't put God in a box or a book. You can write some shit about it in there, but that ain't all of it. That ain't all of it, y'all. We gotta start thinking for ourselves. It all comes back to uncomfortable conversations. No matter what we do in life from this point forward, in order to make it better for ourselves and our children and our children's children and all of those that are come after us, all of them and us. We need to be happy while we're here, right? I want to be happy while I'm here, and I'm getting there. But sometimes we have to have uncomfortable conversations about things like religion or racism or sexism or, how to respect elders who aren't respectful to us. We're going to have a lot of these conversations, folks. And religion is a really big conversation to have. It is. It's a really big conversation. And we are not going to get there until we have it. And we have to start talking about the diversity, not trying to funnel everything into one bottle. Because it's not all going to fit. It won't all fit. And there's going to be people who push back. There's going to be people who don't want it. That's fine. Like I said, if you're really about that life, trying to get that life, let's go. Let's go. It's a beautiful thing, man. And I keep saying it because I want everybody to hear it. When you get them shackles off your feet and do your thing, and you start feeling it inside when you are becoming in tune with your star player, and that heart gets a little bit bigger, Grinch. And that heart gets a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger. And now you're 3 times the size of it was. And it actually feels warm in there. You got some movement. You know what I'm saying? It's a wonderful thing. And everybody has to experience it. I was afraid at first. I thought I was really doing it for the longest time, because you sit down and you have all this knowledge and you read all these books and you've done the academic work, There's a lot of preachers out there that have master's degrees and they have doctorate degrees from all these, seminaries and theological universities and whatnot, but they ain't got the soul. They did the academic work, but they ain't did the spirit work. They ain't did the shadow work. Shadow work should be a religion, because that's where you get real deep and you find God in there. You find it. Your star players down in the bottom of that shadow work. It's a spiritual thing. And religion can lead you to spirituality. But I think at some point, once you find the spiritual nature of this world, it kind of leads you away from religion, not in a bad way, but just because religion itself as a word and as a concept is constricting. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I'd have to say, like, yeah. Okay. Yeah, let's go with that. So, yeah, the thing is, you have to be willing to sacrifice your ego. You have to be willing to sacrifice your worldly desires. And that's different than necessities, you know. But at the same time, you don't have to strip yourself down to look like a peasant. That's the whole thought. Like when you get into different forms of spirituality, they all have, you know, like certain that, monks have a vow of poverty, and that's fine. That's fine. You can strip yourself all the way down. You can strip yourself all the way down to where you have literally nothing but shared community items. And if that's the way you want to rock with it. No judgment, because that's how you're going to be able to get in tune with your star player the best way. And it just has to be personal. There has to be something personal in it for you. What made it personal for me was knowing that my people gave their best trying to teach me about God and where we came from and our lineage and what we stand for and who we're supposed to be and what kind of life is appropriate for us to live. And I'll always be grateful for that, like inside and outside of the church, because I learned a lot of both ways. And it just has to be, it has to be there for you. And I'll be honest with you, some of us don't have a soul. I'm gonna say that out loud. I think I firmly know and will acknowledge the fact that there are people out here that do not have souls and therefore cannot connect to the greater consciousness. And we got to be aware of that. I believe there are people in our governmental structure that are like that and they have no soul. They are definitely part of the anti-life equation. I don't want to be a part of that anti-life equation anymore. And religion teaches us that a lot of things, we were taught by religion that a lot of things are bad that are actually just neutral. Energy is neutral. It's the intention you give it is where it goes. So maybe details from another time. I feel like I'm getting kind of long-winded, but yeah, there are so many different ways to come to God on your own terms. Some of it requires a mediator. Some of it requires a middleman. Some of it requires group thought, hive mind, energy. I don't know not energy, not aura farming, but aura farming is, you got that too. But there are so many different ways to get to God and get yourself expanding your consciousness and connecting a lot deeper. There's so many different ways to do it. So for me to sit back and say anything one way is, I can't do that. I won't. I never will. And for somebody who is narrowing it down and saying, well, that's your opinion. Okay, that's fine. If you feel like you need to tell people that, okay, talk to, like that's another thing. Say what you got to say. Say it respectfully if you can. If not, it is what it is. We'll handle it accordingly. Anyway, I love you guys. I hope this message finds you in good health and good spirits. Keep on pushing to the top. It's your boy Shifu. Holla at me when you see me. Talk to you soon.